To show my appreciation for your support. Thank you, DJs. I came in the door, dripped in balance.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the ZayMoolaSportsPodcast. I'm your host, Zay, and today I'm here to give y'all my winners and losers of the first round of the 2025 NBA Draft. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So my first winner, and it's a pretty obvious one, is the Dallas Mavericks. They captured the flag, selected Cooper Flag with the first overall pick. And we knew when they won the draft lottery that they were going to be selecting him with the first pick, so that's not a surprise. But this is exactly what their franchise needed, because after they traded away Luka Doncic, the future of their franchise looked very bleak, because although they had Kyrie and AD, those guys are older. They're 32, 33 years of age. Still phenomenal players when they're healthy, but they're older guys, and they're not going to be here for the long term. And the Mavericks really needed someone that could carry this franchise for years to come. And now they have that, y'all, in Cooper Flag, a guy I believe will become a superstar player in the NBA, man, because of his athleticism, his versatility, his defense, his basketball IQ, his playmaking ability, and his improved shooting. So I really love Cooper Flag as a player, man. He was definitely the best player in this draft class by far. And for the Dallas Mavericks to be able to add him to this roster that's already pretty good, that features Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, Klay Thompson, and Kyrie Irving, when he comes back healthy, I mean, y'all, this Mavericks team has a chance to make some big-time noise next season in the Western Conference and in the NBA. So, I mean, this is exactly what they needed. And I'm pretty sure for Cooper Flag, he wanted to go to a team like this, because he could have went to a team like the Utah Jazz or the Washington Wizards. But, y'all, I mean, he really got lucky. And the Mavericks got lucky, right? This was the best of both worlds. This is best for both parties, that they get a generational player in Cooper Flag, and he gets to come to a team that's ready to, contend and maybe even potentially go to an NBA final. So love it for both sides, and I think he's going to have a great career for the Dallas Mavericks. So my next winners are the San Antonio Spurs. And if you thought the Spurs were good, but they just got even better and potentially great, because they selected Dylan Harper with the second pick and Carter Brown with the 14th pick. And I absolutely love both of these picks. So let's start with Dylan Harper. And I think Dylan Harper is everything you would want in a modern day point guard. I mean, he's 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. So he has incredible size and physicality at the guard position. I even think he can maybe play small forward because of his size and wingspan. He's a crafty ball handler. He can get downhill and finish at the rim at a very high rate. And I think he's an underrated defender, because when he is locked in defensively, it's very tough to go around him because of his athleticism, his height, and his wingspan. So I think he's going to be a tremendous fit for what the Spurs do. And I don't know, some people think it's not going to be the best fit because they already have De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle on the roster. But y'all, I don't think you can ever have enough dudes that are athletic, that are really good getting downhill, finishing around the rim, and that are good playmakers and good ball handlers. And now the Spurs have three guys that can do those qualities that I just stated. So I love that. And then Carter Brown, y'all, was one of the best two-way players in this draft class, man. He is probably the best perimeter defender in this draft class. He's 6'7", about 210 pounds with a 7'1" wingspan, and he can absolutely just clamp you up defensively. And then offensively, he's a very good spot up shooter, He's super athletic, man, and he's a team player. He's a winning player. He's not going to always, wow you in terms of his stats, because he only averaged about 6 points and 4 rebounds this past season at Arizona. But I just love the way he plays. I love his intangibles. And you add him the extra Victor Wembanyama. I mean, y'all, the Spurs are going to be incredibly dangerous, not just offensively, but defensively, because now you have Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, Carter Brown, and Victor Wembanyama out there on the perimeter locking you up. I mean, they have a strong core defensively. So I absolutely love what the San Antonio Spurs did. I think the Spurs are definitely going to be contenders next season. And this is what they needed to do, y'all. They made the right pick in getting Dylan Harper. I mean, that was the obvious pick. But Carter Bryant, he is what they needed, because they already have a lot of scorers and ball handlers on their team. But now they get a guy that's a low-maintenance player that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be successful, and is going to bring that dog mentality to this team. So San Antonio Spurs, job well done. So my next winners are the Utah Jazz. They selected Ace Bailey with the 5th pick and Walter Clayton Jr. with the 18th pick via the Washington Wizards. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I was very surprised that they selected Ace Bailey. I had them selecting Jeremiah Fears in my mock draft because we heard a lot of rumors that they were very interested in him and that he had a very good workout with them. But instead, they pivoted and decided to select Ace Bailey, a guy that probably has the most upside of any player in this draft class. And if he reaches his full potential, y'all, he will be a superstar player in the NBA for years to come. And that is exactly what the Utah Jazz need, because right now they have a lot of good players on their team, like John Collins and Larry Marketing and Colin Sexton and Walker Kessler and Jordan Clarkson and Isaiah Collier. But none of those guys will be or have the potential to become superstars in the NBA. But you get a guy like Ace Bailey, y'all. When you look at his physical profile, he's about 6'7", 210 pounds. So he has really good size. He's a fearless scorer. Now, he does need to improve his shot selection, but he is not afraid of the big moment. We saw so many times this past year at Rutgers, he came through for them in the clutch, man. He's an improving, not a great, but he's an improving three-point shooter. And I think what he wants to be, he can be a very good defender. So for me, when I look at Ace Bailey, y'all, I understand why they decided to take him. And I know we heard some rumors out there that he wanted to go to the New Orleans Pelicans or even the Brooklyn Nets. But I think this is going to be the best fit for him, y'all, because he's coming to a team where he can really be the man. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised day one if they just put the ball in his hands and say, hey, Ace, go out there, go crazy. Just, take a lot of shots, make mistakes, because they really want to grow him into being their franchise player one day. So you have to understand why the Utah Jazz did that. You have to like why they did this. Again, when you're a franchise like the Utah Jazz, they're not a big free agency destination, y'all. So they have to take swings on players like this. And if Ace Bailey, again, if he reaches his potential, he's going to be a very great player for years to come. And then at pick 18, don't forget about, man, the young point guard out of Florida, y'all, Walter Clayton Jr., man. I really like Walter Clayton Jr. a lot. Talk about a guy that came through for his team, man. He is a clutch shot taker, a clutch shot maker. Now, he's undersized. He's only about 6'2", but he definitely plays bigger than that, man. And he is an absolute dog. And I know they already have a lot of guards from their team. As I mentioned, Colin Sexton, Isaiah Collier, and Keontae George and Jordan Clarkson. But I think he just brings a different flavor to this team because Isaiah Collier is a really good ball handler, a really good playmaker. He's not a good shooter. Keontae George, he's a good scorer, but he's very inefficient. Colin Sexton is probably the best out of all of them right now, but he's probably going to be on his way out. So when you look, although they have a ton of guards, I just think Walter Clayton is somebody that they absolutely needed, and he can handle the ball very well, and he's a pretty solid passer. So I think he's going to be a good fit next to Isaiah Collier and Keontae George. They decided to keep Keontae George. So when you look at it, y'all, I love what the Utah Jazz did. They took one guy that has a super high ceiling, but has a lower floor in Ace Bailey, and they took another guy that has a really high floor but low ceiling. So Ace Bailey, if he maximizes his potential, he'll be great. Walter Clayton Jr., this is as good as he's going to be. I don't think he's going to ever get any better than what he is, but he's already really good right now. So I love both of these picks for the Jazz. My next winner is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the rich just keep on getting richer, y'all, because with the 15th pick, they selected Thomas Sorber, who I believe is the best center in this draft class. And this is just unfair. I mean, the Thunder literally just won the NBA championship on Sunday. And then on last night, they were able to add the best center in this draft class to an already stacked and deep team. I mean, come on, the NBA needs to stop these guys, y'all. I'm sick of it. But no, in all seriousness, this was a phenomenal pick by Sam Presti and crew. And they just continue to do this year after year after year. You remember back in 2022, they selected Jalen Williams with the 12th pick. That was an absolute steal, y'all. And I'm not saying that Thomas Sorber is going to become, the elite player that Jalen Williams has. But I believe he's going to be a very good player for a long time because of the traits that he possesses. But then also, he fits very well with how the Thunder play offensively and defensively. Man, you look at Thomas Sorber, y'all. He's 6'9". He has an incredible 7'6" wingspan. He has a great low post game. He has really good hands. He finishes well around the rim. He's a really solid passer, which kind of reminds me of Isaiah Hartenstein. And then defensively, he's a monster, man, because he's a great drop coverage defender. Now, he's not the most athletic guy. That's probably the biggest weakness that Thomas Sorber has in his game. But defensively, y'all, he has a high basketball IQ. Like I said, he's a great drop coverage defender. He can get some blocks. He can get some steals. And he's also a very tenacious rebounder. So I really love this pick. And the best thing about it, y'all, is that they're not going to need him to contribute right away because they have Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren at the center spot. But next year, when they have to let go of Isaiah Hartenstein for salary cap purposes, they'll have Thomas Sorber right there waiting to contribute to their team. So and he'll be ready to do so. Who knows? Maybe even this season he might get some playing time. I'm not expecting him to get much playing time, but if he does have to end up playing this year, man, he's going to be very productive because I just love his traits and this fit for the Thunder. Great pick. My next winner is the Miami Heat. They selected Kasparas Jakusaunas with the 20th pick, and I was very surprised that he was still on the board because I had him going 13th to the Atlanta Hawks in my mock draft. So the fact that he was still sitting there at pick 20, this was tremendous value for the Miami Heat, and I think he has a chance to become their franchise point guard for years to come, which is something that they have needed for a long time because let's be honest, y'all, the Heat the last couple of years have gotten unsteady play at that point guard spot, but now you insert Kasparas Jakusaunas, y'all, a guy that I think was the best passer in this draft, man. He's a tremendous playmaking point guard. He has great size at 6'6". He reads the defense well, reads the floor well, has tremendous court vision, and then he's also a crafty ball handler. You know, he can kind of finish around the rim decently well, but the biggest thing I like about him is his basketball IQ and his feel for the game. So I think he's going to fit very well next to Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. I think the biggest thing for Kasparas, y'all, he just needs to become a better shooter. Also, he does need to become a more focused defender because he has the, the size and the physical profile to be a pretty solid defender, but he just has to get better and more focused in terms of his defense. But I think for the Miami Heat, getting him at pick 20, man, I mean, there was no way they thought a player of his caliber was still going to be here. Again, I thought he was going to go much earlier in the draft, but he fell into their laps, which is exactly what the Miami Heat needed. I know some Heat fans are still disappointed that they were not able to, trade for KD this past week, but hey, y'all, you were able to get Kasparas Jakusaunas, a guy that definitely is one of the top players in this draft class. So again, y'all, job well done for the Miami Heat and job well done by Pat Riley. Seems like Pat Riley, he always does pretty well in the draft, and he has done it again. My next winner is the Phoenix Suns. They selected Kamal Maluanch with the 10th pick, and then they made a trade with the Hornets to acquire Mark Williams in exchange for the 29th pick and a future first-round pick. And the Phoenix Suns were very serious about addressing their center spot because they drafted a center and then they traded for one as well. So for some people, that was a bit too much, but I absolutely love this, y'all, because they did have a big glaring need at the center spot, and boy, did they address it in the big-time way because Kamal Maluanch gives them the rim running, the athleticism, and the defense that they have really lacked at that center spot for a long time because not even DeAndre Ayton can provide what Kamal Maluanch can provide because DeAndre Ayton was never a great defender, y'all. Well, that's not the case for Kamal Maluanch. He's a great defender. He has great size, a great physical profile, being 7'1" with a 7'6" wingspan. And again, he is very athletic. He's a rim runner. He's a very passionate player, y'all, and he's an improving three-point shooter. Now, he's not a great three-point shooter right now, but I think he has a solid form, which will lead you to believe that one day he can become at least a serviceable three-point shooter. So I really like him as a prospect. I think he's going to be a great fit next to Devin Booker, man. I cannot wait to see how they operate that pick-and-roll game between the two of them. And then the trade for Mark Williams, which I consider, to be a part of what they did during the draft because they traded for Mark Williams during the draft. And we know Mark Williams, he was almost a Los Angeles Laker back in February at the trade deadline, but the Lakers decided not to go through with that trade because they had some problems with him in terms of his medicals. But we know, y'all, when Mark Williams is healthy, he is one of the better young centers in the league. He's a guy that can give you 15 points, 10 rebounds. He's a solid defender. He's definitely not a great defender the way Kaman is, but I think they're going to be a very good center duo for years to come, y'all. As long as Mark Williams can stay healthy, man, this is going to look like a really good trade for the Suns. And I think when you look at the way the Suns have kind of reshaped their roster since the KD trade, I like what they did, going out and selecting Kamal Maluanch and then trading for Mark Williams. And they already have Ryan Dunn on their roster, y'all, so they got more athletic, they got deeper, and they got some much needed size to their team. So I think it's really going to work out very well for the Phoenix Suns. And my last winners are the Atlanta Hawks. They selected Asa Newell with the 23rd pick. And I think outside of the Mavericks, the Hawks were the biggest winners in round one because not only did they get a really good player that could have been a lottery pick, I had them going 17th in my mock draft, but they also got what has the potential, y'all, to be a very valuable pick via the New Orleans Pelicans in next year's draft. And I think that's why the Hawks really struck gold because Asa Newell shouldn't even been on the board at 23. I mean, he's very athletic. He plays with a lot of energy. He's a super solid defender, and he just makes winning plays. And I think he's going to fit very well alongside Jalen Johnson, Nneka Okongwu, Kristaps Porzingis, and Zachary Richardson. And now you look at the Atlanta Hawks, man, they have really rebuilt their front court. I mean, a couple of days ago, they traded for Kristaps Porzingis, and then last night, they selected Asa Newell. And I'm telling you, Hawks fans, y'all not going to be disappointed by him. A lot of Hawks fans probably already have seen him play since he went to the University of Georgia. So I like that he just stays home. But yeah, he's a really good player. Love that pick, y'all. But let's talk about the pick that they got in next year's draft, which could potentially be, y'all, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, which means they could select AJ DeBansa, who is the best player in next year's draft class. That's the talk of the town, that the New Orleans Pelicans, and we're going to get into Pelicans here in a few minutes, but they were willing to give away their unprotected first-round pick in next year's draft, y'all. And now the Hawks possess that pick. And boy, oh boy, if the Pelicans are bad, or if the Milwaukee Bucks are bad, because the Hawks have a choice. They could either get the Pelicans pick or the Bucks pick, depending on which team ends up having the higher pick. So if either one of those teams are bad, or if they just don't perform up to expectations, y'all, that pick could potentially be the number 1 overall pick. Because y'all know, with the draft lottery, you never know what could happen. I mean, who would have thought that the Dallas Mavericks would get the first overall pick in this year's draft? So you just never know what can happen. And now the Atlanta Hawks have what might be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft in their possession. I mean, this is huge, y'all. Job well done by the Hawks management. And I'm really excited for this Hawks team, not even just this year, but for years to come now. Because look at the roster that they have built, y'all, and now look at the pick that they possess in next year's draft. So, whoo, man, the Atlanta Hawks look like they're going to be contenders for years to come. And, yeah, again, outside of the Dallas Mavericks, they were definitely the biggest winners in the first round. So now it's time for me to give y'all my losers, and we have to start with the Brooklyn Nets because I have no idea what they're doing. And I'm not even sure that the Nets know what they're doing because their picks on last night, especially 3 of their picks, made absolutely 0 sense to me. And let's start with their first pick, y'all, at pick 8, selecting Yegor Demon. And here's the thing. I had them selecting Yegor Demon at pick 19 in my mock draft. And had they selected him at pick 19, I would have been fine with that. I would have had 0 problem with this. But selecting Yegor Demon at pick 8 ahead of Carter Bryant and Kamal Maluach and Thomas Sorber and Colin Murray-Boyles, are you kidding me? I get it. Yegor Demon, he's a big playmaking point guard. He's 6'9". He sees the court well. And I understand that teams love these guys that are really tall and that can really pass the ball. But y'all, that's the only thing that he does at a high level. He's a poor defender. He's a poor shooter. He's a poor free throw shooter. And he's a poor rebounder. All he does well is pass the ball. He cannot create shots for himself. He's not a good three-point shooter. And he's not athletic. So they just selected a guy in the top 10 of the NBA draft that all he could do at a really high level is pass? Are you kidding me? What was Sean Marks thinking? Again, y'all, if they would have selected him later in the draft, I would have been fine with that. Because I do feel like he can be, a solid player in the NBA, a solid role player in the NBA. My comparison for him is like a Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson has been a solid role player in the league for several years now. But you don't take a guy like Kyle Anderson, y'all, with a premium pick in the top 10. You just don't do that. Especially ahead of guys that I feel like could become all-stars in the league one day. All NBA top players. Why would they do that? And then you come back at pick 19. You select another point guard, Nolan Traore, which, ironically enough, y'all, I had them selecting Nolan Traore in my mock draft. Not at pick 19, though. I had them selecting him at pick 26. Again, he's not as tall as Yegor Demon, but he's 6'4". He's a really good passer. He's a better ball handler probably than Yegor Demon, but he's still a non-shooter. He's not a good defender. But I would have been okay if they selected him at pick 26, which is what I had them doing. But when you are taking guys, y'all, higher than you should be selecting him, that's when I have a problem with. Again, it's not that I necessarily have a problem with Yegor Demon or Nolan Traore as players per se, but it's just where they selected them. And then Sean Marks decides, you know what, we're going to take another guard and Ben Serif that cannot shoot the ball. So now you have 3 guards that are non-shooters. So for me, y'all, my favorite pick was Danny Wolf. I think Danny Wolf could be a really solid player in the NBA because of his passing ability, his size, his basketball IQ, and his shooting upside. So I think he could be the best player from their draft class, honestly. At pick 27, their last pick, I think he could be the best player. They also selected Drake Powell. He's a little bit of a project, but he has the potential to be a really good 3-and-D player. But, man, this was very disappointing for the Brooklyn Nets because, one, they could have selected better players at pick 8 and 19 than Yegor Demon and Nolan Traore. And, two, y'all, they could have traded up. Instead of selecting 5 players, they could have just used these picks in a bigger trade and got somebody like Ace Bailey or maybe a VJ Edgecombe. But instead, they didn't do that. They decided to select the players that they did. And I don't like it, y'all. So, yeah, I just don't know what the Brooklyn Nets are doing. I wouldn't have done this, but hey, they're going to have to live with this decision, and they have to hope that at least 2 of these guys can become good players for them, because if not, this would have been a wasted draft for the Brooklyn Nets. My next loser is the Portland Trailblazers, as they selected Young Hansen with the 16th pick. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I think this is one of the most head-scratching picks I've seen in quite some time, because this is the guy that was projected to be a second-round pick. I saw a lot of mock drafts had him going anywhere from like 38 to 45. And instead, the Blazers, who could have just stuck at 11 and kept Cedric Howard, they decided to make a trade with the Memphis Grizzlies, move back 5 spots, and take Young Hansen. I just don't get this pick at all, especially when you consider that the Blazers already have a lot of centers on their roster. I mean, last year they drafted Donovan Clingan. They also have, Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton on the team. So why would you get another center to this ball club instead of getting like a versatile wing like a Cedric Howard? Or they could have selected Carter Bryant at pick 11. Like, I would have just stayed at pick 11, kept Cedric Howard. Or if you didn't want to, select him, you could have got, again, Carter Bryant or Tommy Sorber. If you want to take a center, I would have selected Tommy Sorber. But I really don't understand this pick, y'all. Hey, if he turns out to be a good player, I'll come back on here and say I'm wrong. But right now, I just don't see it. And I think the Blazers are the biggest losers of the draft. And my last losers, and I'm calling them my partial loser, is the New Orleans Pelicans. And y'all, this was very tough for me because I actually like both of the picks that they made. At pick 7, they selected Jeremiah Fears, and he was one of my favorite players in this draft class because he's a dynamic ball handler. He's really good at getting downhill and finishing around the rim. He's a very confident player. He has some swaggerness about him, and I think you put him alongside Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones, and Yves Missi, all guys that really love to get out and run in transition, can finish around the rim. I think he can become their lead ball handler and their point guard in the future. So I love him. And then at pick 13, they made a trade with the Atlanta Hawks to come up and select Derek Queen. And I'm a big fan of Derek Queen as well. He's a throwback guy. Kind of reminds you a little bit of like an Alperen Sengun or Jahlil Okafor because he plays with his back to the basket. He's not a shooter. He's not the most athletic guy. And he's definitely not the best defender. But, man, he has a great feel for the game. Really good basketball IQ. Dominant post player and a really good rebounder. And he's going to help out Yves Missi a lot at that center spot. The problem is, y'all, that to come up and select Derek Queen, the New Orleans Pelicans have to give away their unprotected 2026 pick. And that is very dangerous and very risky because we saw what happened to the Pelicans last year. I mean, they dealt with so many injuries. Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum. So this is risky business because they're betting on, one, that all these guys are going to be healthy, but two, that they're going to mesh well together. And right now, y'all, when you look at the Pelicans roster, their roster is a little bit jumbled right now because I think they have a very talented roster. The question is, can these guys play well with one another? Okay, can Jeremiah Fears and Jordan Poole play well together in the same backcourt? I don't know because they both kind of have similar play styles, except Jordan Poole is a better shooter. Can Derek Queen and Zion play together because both of them are non-3-point shooters? Like, these are all questions that the Pelicans are going to have to ask themselves. Can this team work? Again, I like the players. I just don't know if they fit well with one another. And I think because of that, just giving up your pick in next year that's unprotected, when you don't know what in the world is going to happen to this team this year. I mean, y'all, the Pelicans could be bad, get the first overall pick, and then boom, it's going to go to the Atlanta Hawks. So because of that, that's why I have to list the Pelicans as partial losers. Again, I don't think they're total losers the way some people do because they did get 2 very talented players, but because they have to give up their unprotected pick in next year's draft, I had them list them as partial losers, y'all. So there y'all have it. This was my winners and losers of the first round of the 2025 NBA draft. Remember, y'all, that's a good message. So what? Make sure you get your daily dose. Y'all know I'm an man. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.